Chrono Trigger, one of the most beloved video games of all time. Originally released in 1995 on the Super Nintendo, Chrono Trigger received two sequels in the form of 1996's Radical Dreamers and 1999's Chrono Cross. Since then, the series has been mostly dormant in the eyes of Square Enix. There have been ports of the original Chrono Trigger with new content added, but aside from some scraps of new story content in the game's DS port, the series has essentially been at a standstill since the turn of the century. The hunger for new Chrono content in the fan community is strong, and we've seen a lot of stuff in terms of fan games and spiritual successors. I Am Setsuna took a lot of gameplay inspiration from the original Chrono game, and Another Eden has plenty of nods to Chrono Trigger as well. Chrono Alter is a fun RPG Maker game that's one of the best out there, and Crimson Echoes was perhaps the most ambitious ROM hack of all time. But what would a Chrono game look like if it were made today? If Square Enix made a big-budget Chrono game for modern hardware, what kind of gameplay would it have? What would the setting be? And most importantly, what would the story be? As I mused these thoughts, I began to come up with a concept for a modern, quote-unquote, Chrono game, and how that would look. I thought about how the gameplay mechanics would dictate the world and how they would intertwine, and I thought about the kind of bold story evolutions that would take place. Once I thought about the base mechanics, an outline of a story began to unfold, and I realized I had an interesting story to tell. After discussing these ideas with a writer known as Orpheol, we decided they were too good to simply sit on a shelf collecting dust. We decided we wanted to share the story with the world. But how would we tell this story? As we began fleshing out concepts, we realized the best way to tell this story would be in the form of a serialized weekly novel. Creating a game requires a team and funding, and we knew that a lot of independent games end up in development hell for years. In the past decade, I've released multiple albums and even written a film score for a feature film. I like accomplishing goals and don't let the idea of a project falling apart. I'm a fan of getting things done, and we wanted as few barriers to the project as possible, while still putting out something that will engage an audience. As fans of classic literature like the works of Edgar Allan Poe, Mark Twain, Charles Dickens, and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, we felt attracted to the idea of creating a novel, but with the same charm of the JRPGs we love. We're also big fans of shonen manga like Dragon Ball, Naruto, and Hunter x Hunter, and we like the idea of weekly serialized storytelling. Orpheol grew up on Animorphs, so the idea of pumping out new content for readers at a quick pace made sense. With all of this in mind, we decided our format would be a serialized novel with new chapters being published each week for free. After some deliberation, it was decided it would be best if we approached this project as an original IP. Orpheol's favorite video game of all time, Xenogears, was at one point supposed to be a sequel to Chrono Trigger that morphed into its own IP, and the results were fantastic. Hell, Xenogears even had original IPs morph from it in the form of Xenosaga and the Xenoblade games. The Mother 4 project recently got rebranded as an original IP called Oddity. Being free of the restrictions of the original source material allows for additional creativity and helps avoid any legal pitfalls. Too many Chrono projects have received cease and desist from Square Enix, and we have no desire to have that happen to us, so we decided an original story would be best. A spiritual successor, but not a direct sequel. So, it's with all of that in mind that we'd like to announce to you the debut of Radiant Epic, a free, weekly serialized novel inspired by classic JRPGs of the past like Chrono Trigger, Xenogears, and Final Fantasy. Again, Radiant Epic is not a sequel to any particular game or book, so if you're unfamiliar with any of these works, you won't be missing any context for the story. This is an original story that was formed from brainstorming ideas for a Chrono sequel and then reworking those ideas into an original work. For legal reasons, we'd like to stress that point one more time. Radiant Epic is an original work. So, now that we have that out of the way, what exactly is Radiant Epic about? Well, without too many spoilers, Radiant Epic tells the story of three teenagers from the small farm village of Pak in the former Kingdom of Godot. Living under the rule of the occupying Hafen Empire, Tice, Genian, and Lyra live relatively ordinary lives until an ancient artifact sends them into mysterious and unknown lands. Desperate to return home, the three teenagers find themselves on an adventure that spans space and time. We'll leave it at that for now to avoid too many spoilers. To read Radiant Epic for free, simply follow one of the links in the description. We've also set up a Discord that we'd love for you to join. We feel that there are plenty of people who would be interested in this kind of story, and we expect those people would be pretty cool to talk to. If you know anybody else who might like what we're doing, please tell your friends, share the story, and invite them to our Discord. The story has just entered its initial launch, so there's room for the story to grow and expand into other formats. We might do an audio version of the story, and there might be other places to read the story over time. But for now, please enjoy it at the links provided. Thanks for watching this video, and we hope you enjoy Radiant Epic.